Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating 40-year-old educational mystery. We're looking at something famously called the two sigma problem, and how modern technology is finally breaking open a bottleneck that has literally held back human potential for decades.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. Imagine, just for a second, if you had a magic wand. A proven, fully documented method to take a totally average, middle-of-the-pack student and elevate them to the absolute elite. And we're not just talking about a slight bump in their grades. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a fundamental rewrite of what they are academically capable of.
Well, the crazy thing is, that magic wand kind of exists. Back in 1984, an educational psychologist named Benjamin Bloom made a pretty incredible discovery. He found that one-on-one tutoring, when paired with a very specific learning technique, pushed average students all the way up to the 98th percentile. Let that sink in for a second. The completely average tutored student ended up performing better than 98% of the kids in a traditional classroom setting. Insane, right?
Part 1. The Holy Grail Discovered. Okay, let's dig into the exact mechanics of what Bloom figured out all those years ago. Because this discovery, it's basically known as the Holy Grail of education.
So what was the secret sauce? It wasn't just having a human tutor sitting right next to you in the room. It was a really strict methodology called mastery learning. Basically, this is an educational philosophy where a student absolutely must hit a 90% proficiency floor on foundational concepts before they're allowed to move on. Meaning, nobody ever moves forward if they have a gap in their fundamental understanding. You aren't moving on to complex algebra if you're still shaky on basic fractions. The tutor makes absolutely sure you master the basics first.
Part 2, the scaling bottleneck. Which leads us to the obvious question. If we've known exactly how to create top-tier students for 40 years, why on earth isn't every single child getting this kind of education today?
Picture a whiteboard sketch of one completely exhausted teacher desperately trying to reach 30 tiny desks at the exact same time. That is our traditional classroom. It runs on rigid, fixed schedules, forces educators to teach to the greatest common denominator, and leaves teachers utterly overwhelmed because every single kid has a different learning gap. Now, contrast that with the perfect targeted feedback of an apprentice model. One-on-one tutoring gives you high-density, continuous feedback, real-time adjustments, and a pace that is completely individualized to that specific student. It's night and day.
But here's the agonizing reality. Bloom himself hit the nail on the head when he said this model was simply too costly for most societies to bear on a large scale. It all came down to pure economics and labor constraints. Society just couldn't afford to pair every single student with a highly trained human expert. So we had this beautiful, proven idea, completely trapped behind an impossible economic wall.
Part 3, enter the AI tutor. But what happens when technology fundamentally collapses the cost of cognition? We are looking at a massive paradigm shift here.
Now, check out this data from the Sovereign Tech Audit. It proves that modern generative AI-driven learning environments, or GAI-DLEs, are rapidly closing that 40-year-old gap and hitting a scale we've literally never seen before in history. Just look at these effect sizes. Traditional human tutoring gave us that massive 2.0 standard deviation bump. That's the 98th percentile. But right below that, secondary education AI tutors are already hitting a 1.12 standard deviation bump. That lands students in the 87th percentile. And primary education is hitting the 79th percentile. We are generating elite, top-tier outcomes using software that costs a fraction of what a human tutor would.
And why does it work so well? It's the AI advantage. Unlike human teachers, who inevitably get tired or spread way too thin, an AI has absolutely limitless bandwidth. Think about it. Infinite patience, massive knowledge bases, 24/7 availability, and zero judgment. It can pause, re-explain a concept 50 different ways, and continuously adjust to a student's unique learning curve without ever getting frustrated.
Part 4, scaling mastery learning. Okay, so let's see how this actually builds into a functional system that perfectly mimics Bloom's original 1984 vision.
The AI orchestration loop acts exactly like that human tutor. Step 1, it diagnoses specific skill gaps in real time just by watching how the student interacts. Step 2, it feeds them hyper-targeted practice problems to address those exact blind spots. Step 3, it continuously tests the student until they hit that crucial 90% mastery floor. And finally, Step 4, it advances the student to the next topic. It locks in skills step by step, making absolutely sure no learning gaps can compound over time.
Part 5, the hybrid human AI future.
Now, as powerful as AI is, it does have one major weakness. It really struggles to provide genuine human motivation and accountability. I mean, a machine can't look a frustrated kid in the eye and offer real human empathy, right? Which leads us to the ultimate solution. When we pair the infinite, adaptive pacing of an AI tutor with the motivational coaching of a real human educator, the academic growth absolutely explodes. A recent major evaluation of this hybrid model showed a 25% increase in student time on task, a 36% improvement in overall skill proficiency, and a frankly staggering 61% increase in academic growth on standardized map tests compared to baseline AI-only groups.
And what we see here brilliantly illustrates how this hybrid model impacts different types of learners. If you look at the proactive tutoring data, you'll notice lower-performing students get a massive 75% boost in MAP growth when a human tutor proactively steps in to initiate support. It's a real game changer.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that we are not replacing the teacher, not at all. Instead, we're using AI to differentiate their effort. We split it into proactive support, where human tutors initiate help specifically for the lower-performing students who really need that motivation. And then we have reactive support, where higher-performing students work independently with the AI and just raise their hand for on-demand help. We're directing human empathy and intervention exactly where it's needed most to finally close that achievement gap.
As we finally conquer the 2 sigma bottleneck, we are left with a thrilling, almost mind-bending question. If intelligence is no longer scarce, what will our students build next? From using AI agents to orchestrate massive global workflows to unraveling the mysteries of biology with tools like AlphaFold. Economists call this the Jevons paradox. Making a resource cheaper doesn't reduce its use, it exponentially expands what we can do with it. We are looking at an entire generation with democratized access to elite, personalized education. The cognitive limits are officially off, and I, for one, cannot wait to see what they create. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep exploring.